There is temporary relief tonight for the residents of Irene Grootboom House in Cape Town. They will not be finding themselves out in the cold, at least for now. The Public Works Department's urgent eviction bid has been put on ice for another month. The department says the building is unsafe, but residents claim that their constitutional rights are being threatened. Lobby organisation Ndifuna Ukwazi is challenging the attempted eviction of between 40 and 60 people. The organisation's Caitlin Turok joins us now. Caitlin, good evening. I think before we get into the legalities and the details, just tell us a little bit about the story of how these occupants came to be in this particular building.
Good evening, Iman, and thank you for having me. Yes, so we represent around 60 occupiers of 104 to 106 Darling Street. And they came to be in the building in various ways. Some of the occupiers actually had lease agreements with a previous tenant, so a sublease agreement, whereas other occupiers did just occupy the building as they work in town and there's no affordable accommodation nearby.
So we have a ruling now from the Western Cape High Court. Just talk to us about essentially, a development that's bought some time here.
Yeah. So there's no actual ruling in the matter yet. Today the matter was postponed again, but this time the matter was postponed in order for the City of Cape Town and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to actually meaningfully engage on what alternative accommodation they can provide the occupiers with should they be evicted. So it's specifically for that purpose, and they're to report on the 29th of July to Judge Delamo as to what offer they're going to come up with. And then we will have a chance to respond to that offer.
Well, talk to us about the obligation that seems to be inherent here in terms of this particular case, but also in terms of the original Grootboom judgment regarding the right to housing and the prevention of illegal evictions.
Yes. So when someone's going to be evicted, should they be rendered homeless, the municipality has an obligation to provide them with emergency accommodation. Now, in some very urgent cases, this isn't the case, but in this matter, because it's gone on and on and on, and as we've pointed out, it's not actually an urgent eviction order because it doesn't meet any of the requirements to get that urgent order. So the city have actually come to the table and filed their housing report to say what they would do for the people should they be evicted. And in their housing reports, they offered emergency housing kits, but they offer this on the provision that the person who receives the kit gets the consent of a landowner to put up a structure on their piece of land, which obviously majority of those occupiers are not going to find someone to do that. So we said that that's not an offer at all. And then they also offered social housing, which majority of the occupiers don't even qualify for. So now, after we responded to that report to make those points, then the city and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure have said, okay, let's meaningfully engage with the occupiers and see what suitable emergency accommodation we can come up with.
I mean, what alternatives are being sort of provided here or suggested that you think are credible and just?
So they haven't actually come up with any solutions since this order today. They'll have until the 29th of July to come up with these options. But, it's difficult for me to say. We're not the state. It's the state's responsibility to come up with this housing. But certainly the kits without provision of land and social housing for people that don't meet the requirements is absolutely not suitable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really instructive to see how this develops because whatever the outcome is likely to influence future eviction cases in Cape Town, Caitlin, am I right, and elsewhere, particularly regarding gentrification and unlawful displacement?
Yes, 100%. And I think it's also hopefully a lesson to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure that you can't launch an urgent eviction application to try and get over 100 people out of a building without meeting the requirements and following the proper legal process.
I think, perhaps, critics of the process and looking at the initial concerns that the Public Works Department had raised around safety and security, where does that sit in the current paradigm?
Yeah, so, they make these allegations in the founding papers that the building is structurally unsound and basically unsafe for these people to live there. But they fail to show any evidence for that statement. And so, the court can't just take them at their word that the building's seemingly like suddenly unsafe, even though it's been occupied for over 20 years. And now they like need an eviction order immediately. So they need to actually prove that in reports, which they've failed to do. But of course, we're concerned with these statements that it's unsafe, and we don't just ignore that. So today, these are one of the things we're going to ask the city and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in the meaningful engagement process, that couldn't they do some interim measures to ensure that the building is safe for habitation whilst the eviction application and that whole court process is underway.
Are there follow-up steps that Ndifuna Ukwazi and allied organizations are planning to take to ensure that residents aren't just temporarily protected, but provided with permanent, secure housing solutions? I guess a lot pivots on what happens with the resumption of this matter on the 29th of July, but can you just talk to us about that for now?
Yes, definitely. We'll encourage the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to utilize public land for public good, which is what they've repeatedly said that they want to do. Yet they're selling off their public land for what they want in this matter is to sell it off for private use for offices. So, we'll really encourage the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and other state parties that you must use your public land for public good, for affordable housing for people. These occupations don't occur in a vacuum. And should there be well-located affordable housing, we wouldn't have such an issue.
Caitlin Turok, thank you for talking to us tonight and just bringing us up to speed on these latest developments in court earlier today. This bid to evict the occupants of that building in the Cape Town CBD near District 6 now delayed, and those proceedings will resume towards the end of July.